Hey everyone, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. And as you probably can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be giving you my new A1c goals, 5 more bonus tips on how I am try to lower my A1c, and that I will use more to try to continue and lower my A1c, and how I'm going to be using the Diabetic Health Journal in reaching my new A1c goals. So first of all, I'll give you guys an update on kind of my issue with my low blood sugars I was having at my dinner. At lunch, the day after, I went to a Mexican restaurant, a local Mexican restaurant, amazing food. I definitely had more than my insulin could cover, so my blood sugar stayed steady for a while. Then it kind of went up from the high fat concentration to about 185, 190-ish milligrams per deciliter, so that's just over 10 millimoles per liter for those of you that use millimoles. So when I got home 2 hours after my initial injection, I gave myself a half a unit correction because I knew I was going to be going outside and fixing the headlight on my mom's car. And lo and behold, I went out there at a blood sugar of about 170, 165. It had just started coming down from the insulin injection. And when I went and did my mother's car, it was probably an hour and a half post-correction injection, so that insulin dosing was probably already worn off. But by the time I got back in from fixing my mother's headlight in our cold garage, we are still at sub-zero temperatures. My blood sugar went from 160 to about 112 in about a span of an hour to hour and 15 minutes. So I definitely figured out the reason why I'm going low is because I'm wicked sensitive to insulin in the freezing cold. For whatever reason, my body just burns more energy and more sugars to keep me warm and keep me energized. And it's not very uncommon for me because I tend to run colder ever since I've been diagnosed. Like right now, I'm slightly cold, but I don't want to put a sweater on because I don't want to sweat either. So that's how that went. I ran about a 1:18 or a 1:20 carb ratio last night at my dinner, and that's about reducing my insulin dose in half at my dinner, and it worked fine. I went a little higher than I wanted to before bed. I went to like 150. That's kind of on the highish side for me, that I consider high before bed, but I wasn't going to complain because I didn't bottom out in the 50s. So I'm going to try playing around with it a little more. I might try like a 1:16 or a 1:16 and a half, something really, really tight, and see if that kind of gives me a little bit better control that way. But anyways, that is how I kind of problem solve through things, and at least I got this straightened out. And hopefully this will work until these sub-zero temperatures leave, and then I probably will return back to my normal insulin dosing. So now I'm going to give you 5 more bonus tips as to how you can lower your A1Cs and gain more stable and more easier to control blood sugars, and kind of how these are going to apply to the Diabetic Health Journal. So my first tip is use exercise to your advantage. Bonus tip number 1. I do this typically more if I don't want to take a dose of insulin, if my blood sugar's kind of riding 140 to 160, and I know A, I have active insulin on board, or B, it's just not convenient for me at that time to take an additional shot. So I would use cardiovascular exercise particularly to my advantage, doing things like biking, walking, running, dancing, etc. Anything that's going to get your heart moving and pumping is going to make whatever insulin is in your body, even your basal insulin, to be able to be more sensitized, and it kind of forces that insulin to work a little faster at shoving the sugar from the bloodstream into the tissues. Cardiovascular exercise definitely will reduce my blood sugar. It takes about 40-ish minutes of doing moderate to heavy, and I kind of go back and forth. I'll do really heavy for a while, then I'll kind of like slow my pace down and slow my heart rate down, and then when my blood sugar is dropping to the point where I want it, I will kind of just like slowly walk to kind of calm my heart rate down and kind of level off the blood sugar. So I definitely use exercise to my advantage. Any exercise for me definitely greatly drops my blood sugar. Now, some people may not be as sensitive to exercise as others, but I know I am crazy sensitive to exercise. So it is a great way for me to drop blood sugars that might be slightly elevated without having to take additional insulin. And obviously exercise is good for you. It's good for your heart, good for your muscles, good to keep your body in shape and your weight in a healthy range. So exercise, use it to your advantage. I would recommend cardiovascular exercise. I know people that do more of the weightlifting type exercises or the strength and conditioning exercises, those are great too. But those I know tend to raise your blood sugar first because of all the hormones that are released in your body trying to build muscle, and then you will eventually start coming down. This may or may not be true for everybody, but when I do more things that require strength, it definitely might either not drop my blood sugar as quick, or I might just go up a little bit and then it'll take a while for it to come down. So my tip for you would be just to do cardiovascular exercise, but do as you please. Know what your body does with you. Obviously everybody's going to be different, but definitely use exercise to your advantage. Tip number 2 is hydrate. Now, I have had issues in the past. Obviously, one of the first things I think of when my blood sugar may or may not be high is the fact that I may not have enough fluid or water in my body. So I start drinking water as soon as I know my blood sugar is high, or drinking some sort of beverage without carbohydrates to kind of just replenish the fluid that's sitting in my body. Now, you can also get fluid from eating foods. I eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, more so the berry vegetables because they don't spike my blood sugar as high, but those will also contain added fluids. So definitely eat a lot of the fresh stuff. Even some meats and dairy products do contain water, so definitely stock up on plenty of fluids. Because when your blood sugar is high and you are dehydrated, the sugar that's in your blood kind of can't flow nicely into the cells. It might be a little bit too dry inside your blood vessels, so if you add some water, it makes it easier for the sugar and the insulin to cross the cell membranes and be entered into the tissues. I've had it where I've had a blood sugar of about 150, 160, and I slugged about 16 ounces or 2 glasses of water down within about 20 to 25 minutes. I don't want to guzzle it because guzzling that would just hurt my stomach, but taking that amount, 2 cups within a half an hour period of time, my blood sugar definitely will go down anywhere from 20 to 40 milligrams per deciliter. So you're looking at anywhere from 1 to 2 millimoles for those of you that use millimoles, and that is quite a significant drop just from ensuring that you have enough water in your body. And I think a lot of us don't drink enough water. I used to, before I was diagnosed, carry several big bottles of water with me every day, and I would drink half of my weight in pounds and ounces, and at the time I probably weighed about 175 pounds at the time, so I was drinking probably close to 90 ounces of fluid a day. And I definitely drank a lot before I was diagnosed, just because that is the symptomatology of being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, is excessive thirst. But I've kind of fallen back into that trap now where I'm starting to get dehydration headaches, and I definitely feel like I need more water just to keep my skin nice, keep my mouth nice, keep my certain blood sugars under control. So I'm going to be working on hydration more. Now that I weigh about 150 pounds, I'll talk more about kind of my weight and stuff before I was diagnosed. I wasn't like super obese or overweight or anything, but I definitely had a lot more muscle mass, and I was definitely bigger for my height and stuff. I was bigger boned and stuff. But now that I'm 150 pounds, I should be drinking about 75 to 80 ounces of water a day. Not quite as much as I was when I was heavier, but I definitely need to be starting to drink more. 75 ounces of water would be the equivalent of about, 4.5, 5 bottles of water that are about 16 ounces, so that's not super duper hard to do, especially if you put it in a big bottle and then slowly sip on it throughout the day. I notice if I drink a lot of water, I prevent a lot of headaches, a lot of acne, and obviously lowering my blood sugar. So my second tip is to definitely stay hydrated. The third tip I have for you is applying more if you have a CGM like me. Do not just fully rely on your CGM for blood glucose readings. Use a meter in conjunction with this if possible. I have the Dexcom G6, which is a very, very accurate continuous glucose monitor. It's almost always spot on. I use it to treat highs and lows, but when it comes to dosing for my meals and before I go to sleep, I still test with a blood sugar check with a finger poke and a test strip on my meter to make sure A, that my CGM is working properly, and B, I always want to be in check with my blood to kind of know what is kind of going on in my blood at that very moment. It's just kind of a thing with me. Now, it's definitely made it less of an issue, and definitely don't feel as needy to test my blood sugar as much with my CGM, but I still test 2 to 4 times a day with my meter just to make sure A, the CGM is working, and B, I kind of have an idea that my blood sugars are somewhat in check. So because this disease, type 1 diabetes, is a multifaceted disease, use multifaceted tools. So definitely use a meter still. If you have a CGM, don't throw your meter out. Obviously, when we do 2-hour warm-ups or when our CGM does not work properly or there is a signal loss, we have to rely on a meter at that time to make blood glucose decisions. So definitely use both the CGM and your meter together. They will both give you a decent picture of what's going on with your blood sugars, and then you can also see too the accuracy of both of those tools. The fourth tip I have for you, which can be difficult, and I definitely find it very difficult, is to eliminate any stress or get out of any toxic environments or toxic relationships you have with people. Easier said than done. I definitely will be having school stress coming up very shortly, but there's definitely things you can do. When I have stress or anxiety, I tend to do deep breathing exercises that seems to slow my heart rate down and calm my blood sugars down. I tend to find a little time to do some things for myself, whether it be coloring, relaxing, taking a quick nap, journaling, something to just take my mind off of what's going on. And obviously, the best thing you can do too is to remove yourself from toxic environments if possible. I hate to say it, but if you have a job that is absolutely toxic for you and you have people that constantly stress you out and you cannot properly do your job, I encourage you to go find a different job. I know sometimes that is very hard to do, or you might not be able to, but please take care of your health. Try to eliminate your stress. And again, stay away from people that A, stress you out, or B, do not make you feel comfortable. And when you're not comfortable and when you are not feeling like yourself and you are uptight and you are a nervous, anxious wreck, your blood sugars will definitely show that. My blood sugar went up to 200 just before I had my endocrinology appointment, about a couple hours before, because I was stressing out over some things and stressing out over insurance issues at that moment. But I told myself, take a correction shot, and I went and I walked away from the situation, and I did deep breathing exercises, and I drank a lot of water, and my blood sugar came down. I was able to calm my heart rate down. I also do deep breathing exercises just before I go into my appointment. And it kind of helps me, again, to calm down and just to get my mind in a positive aspect. So eliminating your stresses and your anxieties is definitely going to play a huge role in your A1Cs and blood sugar control. And the fifth and final tip I have for you guys is to stay positive. Now, again, easier said than done. It kind of has everything to do with the stress and the emotions, etc., etc. But I notice when I am most happy or I look at things and from a positive angle, I notice my blood sugars reflect that. When my mood changes or I am not in the best of moods, I notice my blood sugars tend to be more roller coasters, or they are high and they're stubborn and they will not come down no matter how much insulin I take. So staying in a positive mindset, I believe, correlates to having decent blood sugar control, because it's mind controlling your body. A lot of the things that we think we can or can't do have everything to do with mental blocks and how we interpret and perceive things and how we look at things from different perspectives. So try to stay as positive as possible. Like I said, it is definitely something that's hard to do some days, especially when you feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Trust me, I had a day the other day, especially dealing with all these crazy lows after dinner. I said, I don't want to play diabetic anymore. Can I just not be a diabetic for one day so that I can, A, not have a sleepless night and not constantly have to worry about managing something my body should be managing for me. But then I thought, well, hang on a second. You have this disease. You have it for a reason. Move on. Push forward. Doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to define you. I don't let out of control blood sugars define me. Like I said, my blood sugar went kind of higher yesterday, but I didn't let it really get to me too much. I make mistakes. I definitely have driven blood sugars higher, and I've definitely rode them lower when I probably shouldn't have. But the main thing is to learn from your mistakes, catch patterns, and move on. So keep that positive attitude, you guys, no matter how hard it seems. Some days I feel absolutely burnt out to be a type 1 diabetic, especially if I had a sleepless night and I know I have to get up the next day and face this again. Obviously, diabetes can be a little demon sometimes, but I will share with you guys a little thing I read on Facebook the other day at the end of this video, so you guys will get a better aspect of kind of how I perceive diabetes, and this article was just really cool too. So, If you missed my video about how to maintain good A1C values, go check that out, but I will tell you right now, my A1C currently is 5.8, and I'm going to give you my new A1C goal. It's not going to be crazy. If you're setting goals, definitely don't set the bar, you know, don't like try to make it a goal that you can't achieve. Obviously, I'm not going to go from an A1C of 5.8 to 5.0 or 4.8 in 3 months. That would be kind of crazy. And first of all, that's getting to the point where I might be having too many low blood sugars. But my new A1C goal is to drop it to 5.5, so I would be lowering it about 1/3%. Dropping it to a 5.5 would mean my average blood sugar sits at about 110 to 112 milligrams per deciliter. So that's even closer to a non-diabetic state. So I would basically be dropping my average by about 10 milligrams per deciliter, or just slightly under 1 millimole, or closer to a 0.5 millimole per liter. So that is my new A1C goal, and then I'm going to talk about how I'm going to do this. So I have an extra month off because my endocrinologist will not have to see me for 4 months. So I'm not going to start this journal until February 27, 2019. And by the time I get to day 90, it will be the day of my endocrinology appointment. So then I can work exactly 90 days to achieve getting my A1C down from 5.8 to 5.5. Now, I kind of have a month off in perspective, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to work my bahookie off to keep my blood sugars in good control, because obviously every second we keep our blood sugars in normal levels or in decent control means one less day of worrying about complications in the future, and obviously dealing with moods and how our body feels, etc. But I want to show you what this diabetic health journal looks like. So I ordered it for a Black Friday sale that was having, and it comes in a cute little bag. It says Decide and Conquer Diabetes Tribe. It's just a cute little like canvas bag, and I might use it to store other things in the future. But it says Turning Desire into Action and Action into Habit, and it is Lauren Bongiorno. I believe that's how you would pronounce her name. It sounds very Italian to me. Please correct me if I mispronounced her name. I will leave her name right here. But it's laurenbongiorno.com at the Diabetic Health Journal, so go feel free to follow her. But I'm going to kind of open up, and I'm going to kind of peruse my first impressions of this, and then I hope to be doing a video at the 1 month, 2 month, and 3 month mark with you guys after I complete this. I hope to be doing this every day and filling it out to the best of my ability to reach my new A1C goal. So as you can see, the front you can pick from a pink or a green colored journal, and the front says One Mind, One Body, One Choice. The Diabetic Health Journal is a 3-month guide to achieving your best A1C, Type 1 Diabetes Edition. And I love the title of the cover. It's a very nice, soft, silky cover. And I'll read the back for you guys. It says, with this journal, I want to show you just how much your life improves when you consistently take a moment to slow down and reflect. Inside, you'll find my holistic approach to diabetes management that will allow you to elevate your mind, body, and soul. These pages provide a source of daily accountability to help you become more mindful about everyday decisions, reflect on patterns, determine what's working and what needs to change. Think of yourself as a peaceful warrior of your own health, strong and determined when facing each day, but grounded and mindful in your approach. No more waiting until tomorrow. It's time to take back your control today. So I definitely like her perspective on how she wants to incorporate things more of what we actually do to manage our diabetes in correlation to our mental thoughts, and obviously correlating to other things too. So some of the tips, the new bonus tips I talked about how to maintain your A1C, you will obviously be seeing reflected in this book. So when you open it up, you obviously have a picture of her, and there's this little red letter. I won't read everything because if you're going to buy this journal, you will be able to read all these. And then there's a few more pages on how we kind of basically learn to control our A1C, and it's a total different approach. She kind of takes what we have learned from our doctors and kind of takes a 360 spin and tries to kind of take it from a different level, so you can read these pages. And then she gives you some more education tips and an A1C chart, giving you your average blood sugars, the percent correlating to the average blood sugar in milligrams per deciliter, and also at the very right in millimoles per liter. So her education tips, she gives you a breakdown what the A1C is. I've kind of already explained that. And she also mentioned something in here that I really didn't mention, so I'm going to talk about it quick. It's more than a number. So obviously this number is very important, but don't overstress yourself on this number. Like I said, A1Cs are great tools, but they should not be the only tools that are used to control blood sugars and give the doctor an idea of how you're doing. Obviously, it's the time spent in range, it's the time looking at your CGM, it's the time planning out your meals and taking appropriate insulin doses and carbohydrate counting. So then she also talks about how to set your CGM alerts, or lowering your bars on your meter to kind of give you a better idea of setting yourself closer to non-diabetic's range. Non-diabetic's range is 70 to 120 milligrams per deciliter, which is 3.8 to 6.7 millimoles. You definitely need to, she said, reward yourself. That's another thing, is reward yourself for the good things you have done and recognize what you can improve on. And the fact that writing things in a journal definitely is proven to be able to maintain and achieve goals easier than those that are typing. I know when I log all my insulin and my carbohydrates, I now do it on my phone. I used to keep everything in a journal, and I find it's more like, it definitely doesn't feel like it feels more automatic, and I feel like I'm not paying close enough attention to all that stuff. So I feel like writing in this journal is going to make me really focus on carbohydrate counting even more precisely, and keeping an eye on, obviously, blood sugar checks with the meters and the continuous glucose monitor. So then you go through a self-assessment. You go through your basal insulin, your insulin to carb ratios, your last A1C, what's your average fasting blood sugar, your target blood sugar, and you're ranking kind of how certain things are important to you. You set some goals, and you set obviously what your new A1C is going to be. And then you got to overcome your limits, overcome those mental blocks, take negative statements and turn them into something positive. For example, she has written here, high or low blood sugar means that I'm not good enough. That is a very much a negative statement, but she rewrote it as, my numbers do not define me, I do my best, and I know I am enough. So it's turning those negative roadblocks into something positive. And then you also kind of take a time to reflect on yourself and write a little letter to yourself about what it's going to look like achieving your goals later. She gives you tips on how to use the journal, and an example of what it looks like. But I will just delve into here. Each thing is categorized by month, and each month has a little quote. Obviously, the first month it says every journal begins with a single step. I'm reading backwards because of the camera, but that's not too bad for reading backwards. But each page obviously has a new quote and a few weekly challenges for you to set. And then each page, it gives you month 1 and day 1. As you can see, I wrote the date in here and the day of the week. But each spot, there is different spots. There is a morning prep where you kind of give yourself a positive I can statement or I am statement. Things that you're grateful for, things that you didn't do yesterday but will try to do today or will do today. Not say try, will. Try versus will is another huge thing. There's a daily log where you can write your time, your blood sugar, if it's out of range, dose your insulin, put extra notes, and you also, this is something I'm going to be watching more closely too, is I'm going to really be watching my fat and protein intake. Obviously we count carbs as diabetics, but I want to be more mindful of my protein and my fat. And an easy way to do this is if you don't have the journal with you, I plan on carrying a little tiny note, so if I'm out and about somewhere, I can write down carbs, fat, protein, and all the things I want to write down, and then later on in the day I can fill this out and to move on to the next day. And then there's a reflection. There's boxes that you check. If you, like, say you pre-bolused or you meal prepped or you meditated, you can check mark all these different things. You do an evening reflection. You do everything on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being dissatisfied and 5 being most satisfied. How you felt with your mood, your energy levels, your nutrition, and your mindset for the day. You can log your water, so every cup of water that you add, you can kind of color in. And then there is a nightcap where you reflect on maybe a pattern you saw, or what you want to focus more on, or why you want to celebrate yourself that day. So this is what each of the days looks like. It's very basic, but I like how it incorporates the physical aspects of diabetes, but also the mental and emotional components, which is absolutely huge. And each page just continues to reflect on this through everything, and you have a little bookmark to kind of keep track of things. And when you get to the end, she kind of gives you a little note at the end of congratulating yourself, and how to reflect yourself and how you can make changes to moving forward. And then it gives you information on her. This is her. She seems like a very cool and inspiring person. I do follow her on her social medias, but Anyways, this is how I am going to hope to achieve better A1C control for the next 3 months, starting at the end of February. Like I said, just because I have kind of a month off doesn't mean I'm not going to stop controlling my diabetes. I'm not going to let it go haywire. I'm going to just continue to achieve these things. Like I said, I hope to make a 1 month update as every month I go on here. So anyways, I hope this helps you guys, and I hope this makes sense. Definitely go check out this Diabetes Health Journal if you would like. Like I said, there is pink and green, so don't feel like if you're a guy and you don't really care for light pink, you can obviously go for a green journal too. And I think journaling is a great way to really put your things down in paper and make it more of a mental to physical connection, because when you're physically writing stuff down, your mind and your body are working together, just like your mind and body should always be working together. Before I sign off on today's video, I had briefly mentioned I had found an article on Facebook that I wanted to share with you guys. Whoever wrote this must be a diabetic themselves, or they know diabetes so well that they hit it right on the head. It describes kind of how strong we are to really be facing a disease that constantly changes, and we constantly have to put up a fight. I hope you find this motivational, and I hope it gives you the courage and the strength to keep pushing on and keep striving to be the best version of yourselves. To every warrior fighting and battling diabetes, this is for you. Hey warrior, I just want to say you're doing amazing. Even on the days you feel weak, and the days that you feel you've had enough. Especially on those days, because that's when you're fighting your hardest. Your vulnerability and even your weaknesses make you strong, make you powerful, resilient, unstoppable. You've made it thus far. I mean, look how far you've come. Whether you've been diagnosed for a day, a week, a year, 5 years, 20 years, you're beating all the odds against you heroically. You continue to hold the weight of the world on your shoulders, day in and day out, with such profound grace and humility. Don't let those crazy numbers that show on the blood sugar meter discourage you from your success. I'm sure you might see at least one high or one low number today. If so, keep going. If not, keep going. Either way, you're winning because you don't let diabetes stop you from living your life. Those needles that create those scars, well, they tell a story. A story about how you wake up every day to fight the same demons that left you so tired from the night before. You should never be ashamed, because it just means that you are stronger than diabetes, and you have the proof to show for it. The next time you go to take your insulin, just know that you are not alone. Try to not let the fear overwhelm you and dwindle your spirit. This is an incredibly difficult and daunting challenge, where you don't always know what's ahead. But you were given the strength to face this challenge. Just take a moment and marvel at what an amazing gift it is to be just alive, to be all that you can be. Go show the world how you live beyond this disease, because it doesn't define you. Ask yourself today, how can you use this disability to empower others? How can you turn a negative into a positive? Be bold enough to raise your voice. Speak for what matters. Speak for others who do not have a voice. Be the light in someone's darkness. Use this as a higher calling, for that there is a purpose in your struggle and all that you go through. Take the reins, because today you got this. You are amazing. You are heroic. You are a warrior. So anyways, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I have about 29 more subscribers, and then I will be sharing for you guys my type 1 diabetes diagnosis story. I am so excited to share this with you guys. Hopefully everything will go well. But right now my computer took a little bit of a dumper, so I will be doing things more on my phone for now. But anyways, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. And I hope whatever A1C goals you want to achieve, that you're able to achieve them. And I hope all the tips that I've given you over the past week have really helped you and inspired you to get better A1C control. Like I said, I don't A1C shame anybody. Like I said, if you feel burnt out or you need more advice, feel free to message me on here, Instagram, or Beyond Type 1. I am willing to chat with you. Like I said, even I feel burnt out some days with my diabetes, and days that I can't control my blood sugar. it obviously gives me a chance to say, hey, you are a diabetic and not all days are going to be perfect. So keep that in mind when you do these things, that not all days are going to be perfect, but it's how you do overall, which is most important and what will contribute to your health later on. So I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.